Okay, so we are looking back at some of the best moments over the last decade at the Aviva Stadium. It is rugby week, so obviously Ireland against the All Blacks in 2018 has come up, and the man who scored a try that night, Jacob Stockdale, is with us. Jacob, you're very welcome. How are you getting on?
Cheers. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's going all right. Not too bad. Bit of a weird time at the moment, but yeah, I think I'm enjoying it.
Before we do a deep dive on whether or not the haircut was a success or not, we should chat about this night at the Aviva 2018. This is the night, really, at the Aviva from a rugby perspective, isn't it? And I'm sure that when you look back on it, you probably think, first of all, of how unbelievable that atmosphere was on that occasion.
Yeah, like it's the Viva. I think is quite a special stadium in the sense that like it's not necessarily the biggest. Like you don't have the most amount of seats in comparison to somewhere like Twickenham or Stade de France, like those like massive arenas. But like the noise that can be generated, in that stadium is incredible. And yeah, that night I remember like it really went to the next level where it was like, every time you like caught a high ball, you got like the hairs in your neck were standing up just because like the sheer noise of the crowd, like it was class.
The high balls, the hits, like I think was it James Ryan sent Brodie Retallick back about 15 meters deep into the second half, and the place just absolutely erupted. I've never seen every single incident involve the crowd so much.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like you felt like you were hitting a rock and people were going wild. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like that's usually stuff that nobody cares about. But yeah, just on that night, I think mainly because the game had been talked up so much. Like I remember, in like the start, like first game of the season, like with Ulster playing with them, and afterwards, as I got interviewed, and they were like, "Right, well, what about this New Zealand game in November?" I was like,
Right.
that's about 3 months away, but like people like they were just ready for it, and yeah, it was when it finally came around. I think like, everybody was just so worked up about it. Like that's where the noise came from.
What was the bigger factor going into this game, Jacob? Was it the fact that you'd finally got the job done against the All Blacks and that it gave a greater sense of confidence going in, given everything that had happened in Chicago 2 years previous? Or was it actually more to do with the fact that there had been a couple of really near misses in Dublin over the past few years?
Um, I don't really know because this was my first that was my first time playing them. So I suppose for me, I was just focusing on my game and like just trying to have as good a performance as I could, like in what was probably the biggest game of my life to that point. Um, so like for me, I was just focused on that game. I think to be honest, like I think the reason that the guys were so up for it was probably a mixture of the two. Was that hurt that they'd experienced, in Dublin before, where like New Zealand, pulled it off in the last play, and then obviously, in Chicago they knew that they made the team realise that they could beat them,
Mm.
and they could have those massive performances. So yeah, I think it was probably a bit of both. A bit of hurt from the last time in Dublin, and a bit of confidence from Chicago.
Yeah, because like the 2013 game always sticks out as the real near miss when it comes to the All Blacks. But I think what people forget as well is that a week or two after the game in Chicago, the All Blacks came to Dublin and really completely beat Ireland up, bent every single rule possible under the sun. Was that spoken about going into this game where it's like, if somebody's kind of coming in at the side, if there are rules being bent, if they start to get down and dirty, we've got to get down there with them. But was that spoken about at all going into the 2018 game?
Yeah, definitely. It was. It was spoken about a good bit. Like we felt that in that game, the previous game, like there should have been definitely one red card, potentially two, and obviously that flips the game massively. So going into it, like Joe talked about, I think the term we used was bullying the bully.
Mm.
And like that was just talked about our physicality, and picking out certain players in their squad who were their like enforcers, making sure that we were all over them and that they didn't get a break physically the entire game. And I think, in hindsight, it was a game plan that worked brilliantly.
Who were the enforcers that he had picked out in that All Blacks team?
Um, the Brody, I remember Brody Retallick was definitely one. Just his physicality. And he is like, if you watch him play, like he is a kind of like he's just the kind of guy that does beat people up a wee bit, like, and he does it brilliantly. So he was definitely one that you know the intention was to go after him.
Your try that night, the chip and run, I think in interviews around this time when you got a couple of these sort of tries, you put it down to luck, but it must have been down to a little bit more than that. It was more than just the bounce of the ball. Obviously, there is the athleticism to get past Aaron Smith at this point, where he kind of sees you coming over his left shoulder. With the passage of time, have you looked back on that purple patch and thought to yourself, this is exactly what I was doing, that this is why things were really going my way during this point in my career?
Yeah, to a certain extent. Like obviously, actually with being in lockdown, it's given me a massive opportunity to like reflect on the kind of last year and a half, and I think I've literally watched every single game that I've played in about the last 2 years. So I've
Right.
like uh, more just because I love watching rugby and I get bored, so I just stick a game on and I'll watch it. But yeah, like I think to be honest, there was that confidence there of being able to back myself. Which is probably something that like I've gone away from recently because I suppose to a certain extent I've tried to be a bit too smart with my game, and trying to be a bit too tricky when realistically, like I know I'm best whenever I run up defenders and try and get past them, and it's sounds stupid, but it is as simple as that. So I think yeah, just having the confidence and mobility is something that when everything's going right and whenever you're 21 and scoring tries all the time, like it's easy to back your confidence, but whenever you've had a year that's been a bit quieter, then it gets a bit tougher.
What sparked that change? What sparked the change in you perhaps not backing yourself fully to the hilt?
I don't really know. Probably to a certain extent, when you get a couple of poor performances, like that's whenever you start to doubt yourself.
Mm.
I think, probably for me during the World Cup was when it was the first time where I'd really, like doubted exactly, how good a player I am. Like I think I've definitely, come through that, and I'm kind of on the other side of that and really excited about, hopefully rugby starting up soon. But yeah, I think it's that kind of idea that you're only as good as your last game, and whenever you get a couple of poor games in the bounce, then that confidence drops a wee bit.
Was there a particular moment in the World Cup when you realised that a little bit of that confidence had deserted you?
Um, I think after the Samoa game, and it wasn't necessarily that I'd lost the confidence. It was just the enormous amount of frustration I felt
Mm.
with that game because I felt like I, just tried everything I could to get into the game and to score a couple of tries, and it just wasn't happening for me. And I was looking at other lads like Jordan Armour and Andrew Conway who are both who played very good rugby in that World Cup, and I just remember getting more and more frustrated. Um, so yeah, that was like a bit of a turning point for me, and then coming back from the World Cup, I decided that I really needed, to find a new mindset and change that.
And how did you manage to find that?
Um, Again, like just kind of going back to making sure that I enjoyed rugby,
Yeah.
and trying to find my way back into that kind of that confident mindset where I just want to take players on, and I think I have got back to that to a certain extent. I think during the Champions Cup with Ulster, like I felt really good or really enjoyed those games. Didn't score any tries, and sometimes it happens, but yeah, I was really just happy with where I got to.
Well, like it's interesting when you mentioned the Champions Cup this season. Like possibly, I don't want to speak for you, but possibly your most memorable moment so far this campaign is the tackle against Bath, and it's a defensive effort. And I think a lot of the talk around you as well has been even being moved to 15 in the red and white of Ulster as well. It's not just the try scoring Jacob Stockdale we're seeing now; it is a multi-positional defensive Jacob Stockdale that we've started to see over this domestic season post World Cup.
Yeah, I think like to be honest, that's on the flip side of what I was just saying. That's something
Right.
that I'm massively proud of over the last year or two. Is that like my ability, as a multi-positional player, has kind of come to the fore a bit more, and that people are kind of seeing me more, potentially seeing me more as like somebody that can actually play make and understands the game rather than just a youngster out in the wing that's pretty fast and can score a few tries.
Mm.
So yeah, that's something that I've been really really happy with.
It's interesting when you look back at the All Blacks game, just watching a bit of it this morning, it felt that everybody was in such a flow state, even with the move leading up to your try, the way it felt so seamless that Bundayaki was going to turn the entire direction of the attack, and all the 15 green shirts knew it was going to happen, but it took all of the All Blacks by surprise. Everybody was on the same page. Obviously, your kick goes to plan, you follow through, and it's a try. Did you feel that at the time, that you were in that state of flow? Because I think sometimes that's a hard thing to describe.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like it's a strange phenomenon, I'd say. You know, some days just it doesn't feel right, and it's just not going to plan, and it's not necessarily that you're missing 50 tackles as a team and they're running riot. It's just that you're 1 or 2 meters away from where you need it to be to make a tackle, or things like that. Whereas like on that night, it just felt that like if you needed somebody in your inside shoulder to help you defend, they were there. If you needed I remember deep inside their half, like they like through like a dodgy pass and Kieran Reid dropped it, and I kind of like went through, tackled Ben Smith, and I was like, I remember thinking like, oh, I'm going to struggle to get him into touch, and then all of a sudden like Johnny just comes flying in and gets that second impact and batters and then in touch, and I just remember thinking I remember thinking that if this was flipped over, how like draining and just like kind of suffocating that it would feel as an attack, which is exactly what you want when you're playing a team like the All Blacks.
Did you notice a massive step up from the All Blacks in the intervening 12 months? Like, I don't think there was ever any case that that New Zealand didn't take Ireland seriously leading up to even the Dublin game. But perhaps to just put their focus on Ireland a little bit more after that. There was obviously real debates about New Zealand versus Ireland as the best team in the world, perhaps after the year of 2018. Did you feel that they'd gone up to another pitch then after you'd kind of given them a wake-up call in Dublin?
I don't really know, to be honest. I mean, they're always going to be a team that you're going to talk about when you're talking about the top 1 or 2 teams in the world. Do you know what I mean? They're always going to be in that bracket. But I think, like, to be honest, there's just certain times when other teams have the ability to go ahead of them. But I think, like, for instance, in the World Cup, it was South Africa. South Africa just got it right, and that's when you're able to beat them. But to be honest, I think, as a long-term team, they've just found that ability to be, to be constantly competing at the highest level. And I think, that whenever it came to the quarterfinal of the World Cup, nearly a year later, like they were definitely ready for us.
Yeah. So when you're going back to look at all these games that you mentioned during the last few weeks, are you looking at the World Cup games? Is it a struggle to actually think about some of the tougher moments during your career and then actually going through the process of sitting down to analyze that?
Yeah, definitely. I think like if you only go and watch like the nice bits, you're just like you're living in a fairy tale, to be honest. Because realistically, like players, even world class players, best players in the world, have bad games, and that's something that you have to accept. So no, yeah, I go back and I watch every single game, and I watch the tough bits and I make myself watch them. I don't want to, but I think it's actually like I can remember a lot of the moments where I haven't played well and what was going through my head at that point. And whenever I can kind of get back into that mentality, then I can I can see where my mentality was wrong, and then I can fix it going forward. Like one example that like I can think of is actually just when we come back from the World Cup. We went down. Ulster went down to Thorn Park play Munster, and I had like a shocking game. Just didn't do anything, like nothing, like and I just, my head wasn't in the right space. And I remember my mentality before that game was like that. I was trying to be like real, like kind of chatty and lippy to the Munster boys because I thought that in my head, I could get a one up on them because they would think, because obviously being in the World Cup, like I knew a lot of them, and they, I could maybe get inside their head, but realistically, all it did was take me away from my game and what I was able to focus on and what I was good on, and I had a poor game. And I watched that and I remember thinking about that. So whenever we played Munster at home, I completely flipped it and I focused on myself. And I had, probably my best game of the season. So yeah, I think there's massive benefits from looking at the stuff that you really don't want to.
So you're not a trash talker then?
Well, the odd time maybe. But yeah, I've realised that whenever I start going out of my way to slag the boys and the other team off, even if it's banter, I just I stop focusing on my own game, and to be honest, I realised that as much as self-centered as it sounds, whenever I'm focusing on myself, that's when I play best.
So what sort of stuff were you saying to the Munster lads?
I can't be saying that.
I'm sure they're pretty well able to give it back anyway. It's interesting though, when you think about your own trajectory. If we kind of say that the 2017-18 season was kind of when you started to go stratospheric and like an absolute staple of the Ireland team, scoring in every game it seemed in the Six Nations that year. This is almost like your first real break, isn't it? Given that last summer was filled with Australia and then preparation for the World Cup. Like, it's been a long old period, and this pandemic has given you the first opportunity to actually step away from the game for a little bit. And like, I was going to go into this conversation and ask you what you've been doing with that. You've clearly used it for one really constructive reason, which is to go back and analyze old games. Is there anything else you're doing in terms of self-reflection?
No, I think to be honest, like a big thing that I've focused on over the course of lockdown is my kicking. I think. Okay. Because I'm a left footer, I kind of give an extra bit of attacking opportunity to teams that play in. So that's something I've been working on massively. Is just getting that consistency in my kicking, because maybe 3 out of 5 times I'll be really hammer the ball long and I'll get a great kick, and then 2 out of those 5, like, they're not great kicks, and I'm just not getting that consistency. So that's something that I've definitely just tried to, like, because I realised that I could potentially have 4 months here where I'm not playing any rugby. I just decided to completely break down like my kicking technique and essentially start from scratch again. So yeah, no, it's starting to come back to a place where I'm actually pretty excited about it now. And like, I'm looking forward to hopefully bringing it into games.
And how are you managing to do that? Are you going out to a park? Have you been able to get into a practice facility to be able to train on your kicking?
No, I've been very lucky. Malone Rugby Club is literally just maybe 30 seconds down the road from me, and they gave me a key for their gate, so I can just kind of come and go when I please, and there's not a soul about the place, so it's pretty much ideal. And yeah, like, I'm very, very grateful to them because it's very generous of them.
You're back in Armagh at the moment?
No, I'm in Belfast. I'm staying in Belfast, so I am, yeah.
Because I was reading a little bit recently about Lurgan in County Armagh, and Stephen Campbell, the GAA player, was saying that it's amazing how during this pandemic all sides of the Lurgan community are coming together, and all different sports people are kind of helping out, whether it's like doing deliveries or things like that. And I think he was commenting in the Irish News, I think it was, just about how amazing it was, and an amazing stamp of where the place is at the moment, that the entire community is coming together for this one cause, which is to help each other out during a very tricky time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, yeah, like, you mentioned Stefan there, like, he's a great fella, and I think it speaks volumes when, like, the captain of the Armagh GAA team is going, to Lurgan Rugby Club, which is in the middle of Mourneview, which would be quite, like a unionist dominated estate. And he's, getting bundles of food and delivering them all over Lurgan, and I think that's massive for the community. And yeah, I think we've come a long, long way in that sense, where, like, it doesn't really make a difference where you're from or how you were brought up. Like, and it is sport that's bringing us together, which again is massively exciting, for us. Like, I played my first ever game of Gaelic like last year with all those boys, and it was great crack. It was shocking. I was absolutely and it was just like, and that's just something that I wouldn't really have ever even thought of doing growing up, because that's just, I suppose, not what you do.
Yeah.
But hopefully we can get to the point where that is what you do, and every kid goes and they play hurling, Gaelic, like, football, rugby, cricket, where it's just, it's like whatever sport you want to play, you just do it.
Absolutely, no question about that. I must ask, what position did you play when you're? I presume it was Gaelic football rather than hurling you were playing, was it?
Sorry, yeah, it was Gaelic football. Yeah, I was full forward, like, so.
It was bad.
Yeah, I scored 1 goal, so I was pretty happy with that.
Happy days. I would actually. I was trying to think, where would you play in football? I think whoever was manager of that team got it spot on. You were the ideal full forward, I think, for Gaelic football. It's actually, like, just when I was doing a little bit more and reading a bit of those Stephen Campbell comments, he was saying that, like, Clonagale used to actually train on the Pollock Park pitch during their off season and stuff like that. So this is not a new thing by any stretch of the imagination.
No, exactly. Like, I think, in fairness, that's one thing that like Lurgan Rugby Club got really right, is that yeah, this has been going on for a while, where, like, they're just two clubs that have a really good connection and a really good relationship, and yeah, that's pretty much how it's been for a while.
You say you're pretty excited now to get back to play, to get back and put some of that practice into action. Like, looks like it's going to be a situation where we're going to have interprovincial derbies in an MTV Stadium come August. Are you all for that? Do you feel that it's a safe space for athletes to go out and play come August?
Yeah, I think so. Like, realistically, like, we have to start somewhere, and I think, like realistically, like, in terms of, I suppose, a financial standpoint, like, we need to get rugby back, sooner rather than later. And I think there's no better way to do that than with interprovincial players who realistically, like, are all, usually training together anyway, not taking any flights, and playing behind closed doors. I think that's as safe as it can possibly be. And for me, like, I'm just dying to get back to play any sort of rugby. I'd take 15 aside on a pitch in the middle of nowhere right now, like, just to run out on the pitch again.
Have Ulster Rugby been in touch pretty much every day, or do they leave you to your own devices for the most part?
Yeah, they've been pretty good in terms of, like, just giving us the amount that we want, if that makes sense. So they're kind of like they would contact us, be like, look, here, we can set up a Zoom meeting to chat about, backfield cover if you want to do it. So here's the link if you want to join. If you can't be bothered, no worries. And that, like, that's not work. It's just chatting with your mates about rugby. In the same way, they're kind of going, look, here's a gym program if you want to follow it. That'd be great. If you want to go do your own thing, like, that'd be great as well. So yeah, obviously, like, they've been pretty good in terms of just, like, giving us the opportunity to do something. But if we don't want to do it and we want to go our own way, then they're completely okay with that as well.
I said at the top that we were going to get to your hair eventually. It looks like it was a fairly recent job on the head.
Yeah, well, I've actually I think this is about the fourth time that I've shaved it back again. So I'm kind of committing to it. Like, I actually really like it. It's unbelievably handy. Like, you just shave it and then you just don't think about it for about 3 weeks, and then you're like, oh, I'll shave again, and I'll shave again for 3 weeks.
So it's ideal, I presume. So you've done this 3 or 4 times during this particular lockdown.
During lockdown, yeah. So I've been keeping it pretty tight.
And is this just out of boredom? Like, obviously the practicality there is a huge factor as well, I'd assume.
Yeah, there's practicality. Also that I didn't get too many great responses when I grew my hair out last time. So I'm thinking that I'm probably better generally with it short.
Don't let the haters hate on your hair, but the shortcut does suit you, Jacob. Listen, Jacob, it's been great chatting to you. Mind yourself during the remainder of this lockdown, and we're all looking forward to seeing you back in action in August, all going well.
No worries. Cheers. Thanks a million.